Who controls your mind? This is part 2 of Exploring Brain and Mind that explores the question of who controls your mind. And as we go into some, quote, outside forces, unquote, and their methods and techniques they employ for persuading you to believe something, I'll give you a little trigger warning. If you have a very fixed mindset and you believe everything you hear in the media, in the news and everything, you must open your mind and broaden your horizons, because what I'm going to tell you will ruffle feathers and it will rattle cages and it will shake some of your core beliefs that you might have about the media and about what people tell you they heard and saw in news, in the media, or what they get told by so-called authority figures. So sit back and open your mind, because not everything is as it seems. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, that was the first part of Who Controls Your Mind, let me go back into a few bits that I said then, because I went more into biological processes and into the subconscious that play a role in influencing brain and mind, and into your closer environment, as in people around you, maybe your friends, your colleagues, your life partners, and what they do, what influence they may have on you, and what kind of, sometimes they use certain methods to persuade you as well to believe something, sometimes not necessarily to your best interest. And today I'm expanding this into the, what I call outside forces, lots of techniques and methods used by media, that are used by advertisers, in sales, marketing, by authority figures and governments, as we have seen since March 2020. And it will rattle a few cages, as I said before, because I will use some examples of the time period from March 2020, as there have been a lot of these techniques and methods used to make you believe something is true, something has to be done, something you have to do, even though it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. One important thing to remember is as well, no story, no headline has ever only one single perspective. There are always alternative views, alternative opinions, alternative sources and perspectives to any story or to any headline you will ever see in news, advertising, sales, marketing. There are always alternatives available, and very often the alternatives are available publicly. You only have to take the time to research and find out more about a story or headline. There is never only one single perspective to it. Let's look at social media and what's happening there. You've got the algorithms that either show you things that you like or that show you things that you are meant to like and meant to believe. They can either be like echo chambers or they're reducing exposure to alternative viewpoints, or they reinforce existing beliefs. Then you've got something called a bandwagon effect. Oh, everyone's doing this. Let's do this. What is it? Like the ice bucket challenge. I remember that years ago when that was the big thing on social media. Everyone was doing this stupid ice bucket challenge. But it's everyone's jumping on it. Hey, they're doing it. Let's do it as well. And sometimes it's behaviours that are out of order as well. There was a few things I can't remember an dream example right now. But there can be some examples of really very unhealthy behaviours, or very strange behaviours that you wouldn't really want to repeat or show yourself as doing those. And a lot of people jump on those. And actually, it's not depending on age. There's younger people, there's older people as well doing this kind of stuff. They don't want to feel left out. They want to, it's this thing about belonging again. They want to belong. They want to be seen as part of the group, so to speak. So when you see that kind of stuff, all these viral challenges, these kind of fancy dances on TikTok or whatever, you don't have to do this. Consider your values. Does it align with who you are and what you stand for? Do you really want to look silly? Do you want to kind of really be part of what this is kind of representing, what this could mean? You have the choice. You don't have to do it. Then we have the world of advertising and marketing, where people are persuaded in different ways to want something. They sometimes use in subtle language, just little cues in their advertising that trigger something in the brain that make you think about, maybe this is for me. They also use a lot of different colors and color schemes that can link to emotional states, to induce happiness, joy, but also to induce fear and anxiety sometimes. Or sometimes they use red for urgency and blue for trust. With regards to colors, you remember the advertising in the period after March 2020, when there was wanting people to be fearful, be vigilant, to convince them to do something that they're asking you to do. The color schemes of these ads, they were all kept very dark. Then the images were of situations with very sick people. And the language, I'm adding the language in there as well. The tone of the language, very low pitch, authoritarian, fear-inducing. I'm sure you might remember some of these ads that were about. You could see the ads not only on TV, you could hear them on the radio. You could see posters in stations with all these dark color scheme kept images with very sick people. Then you've got the big capital letters very often with certain words highlighted that you're made to pay attention to. These kind of tactics are often called neuromarketing, where colors, sounds, and sometimes even scents are scientifically designed to evoke emotional states or behaviors. In marketing, there's also scarcity tactics employed, where certain items are kind of limited in stock. Only 5 items left in stock, or only 2 items left in stock, that might urge people to buy for fear of missing out, which is often shortened to FOMO. Or scarcity tactics could also be, it's only available today, or it's only available till Monday. You need to call us today. You need to call us before Monday to make sure you get the offer as advertised or as presented. Or sometimes a limited amount of lower price memberships are made available, but you have to be one of the first 50 to get the lower price offer. These are the scarcity tactics very often applied in advertising and marketing. And I'm aware I added the example of advertising or warning people of certain things with the posters and campaigns after March 2020. I added that in there because it used the same tactics, and in a way it's marketing as well, isn't it? You're marketed to believe that you have to be careful. You're marketed to believe that you have to do certain things to save people. Next part I'm heading to is media and propaganda and the methods that they use to make you believe something, or that they at least try and make you believe something. One thing they use, I've already mentioned in the sales and marketing section, because they use relevant imagery, tone of voice, language to make sure that the messages are hitting the right emotional nerve, so to speak. That is often employed when they do fear-mongering, where messages are exaggerating dangers to provoke fear and compliance. And I listened to an interesting podcast the other day where someone was saying the combination of novelty and authority can strongly influence a decision to conform. And when I heard that in the podcast, that brought me right back to March 2020 and afterwards, because the situation was new, it was unprecedented. So the tactics and techniques they were using to make people believe this is really life-threatening, dangerous, it made it more successful because many people believed it. And some people do still believe it to this day. But I would suspect these are the people that don't understand how the media works, what tactics they employ, how propaganda works, what tactics are employed. It's either they don't know or they don't want to know. I've got a good current example as well for fear-mongering, which is news reports focusing on catastrophic language for weather events. It creates undue anxiety in people. Did you notice how the weather maps have changed over the years, where they used to have like more subtle colours, and nowadays they use like strong colours for heat. It goes to darkest red to black for extreme heat, and extreme illustrations for rain and storms, and they give the storms names, and the reporting is always geared to make people fearful and to keep them anxious. It's this whole climate change narrative that is hyped in the media, in advertising, everywhere as the best current example for fear-mongering. But a lot of people, I think, see through what is going on, how it's hyped up, and how it's actually not true that this year was the hottest ever. Not really, was it? So people are coming round to more critical thinking and to weigh up if something is true or not. I'm glad to see that happen. And I think the period after March 2020 played a certain role in that as well, considering what has been done then and what is now revealed, all the revelations coming out. Back to the techniques, we still have the repetition for persuasion that's used a lot. They used like mantras as well, didn't they? Mantras, symbols, virtual signaling, mantras, hands, face, space, hands, face, space, repetition, that constantly going. Or you had the saying that, is this safe and effective, safe and effective? And it's been repeated. Social media, news reports, everywhere. I must mention that, how often that was drilled. Well, it was tried to be drilled into people. And what have we got now? You can answer that question yourself. I don't need to answer that for you. If you have your eyes open and ears open, you notice what is going on and how safe and effective, in quotes, something was or wasn't. So you had the mantras being repeated all over, everywhere, constantly. Then you had the virtual signalling, which was every Thursday at 8, you have to clap for the NHS. It's just pure virtual signalling. with other propaganda is like, oh, there's a certain war going on. You have to put that flag up to symbolize that you're with them on their fight for the right thing. Is it really the fight for the right thing? Employ critical thinking, research backgrounds, research history preceding certain events. It always pays off. That will show you that there is not only one story, one perspective, one angle to a headline or to what is going on. Sometimes you have false authority figures as well that are presenting you with a scenario or with so-called facts about products, about situations, something that you're meant to believe. Very often go back to advertising and marketing again. A lot of times they use actors in adverts in white coats to present toothpaste or to present products or to read adverts for charities. Another thing that happened in the post-March 2020 period was they got celebrities to endorse safe and effective and even sometimes to vilify people who were not believing the narrative. People were vilified. There were techniques as well to nudge. Do you want to save Granny or do you want to be selfish? They gave you the illusion of choice that was trying to make you feel really bad if you did not make the choice that they wanted you to make. And that reminds me of the Milgram experiments from the 1960s. A very important experiment undertaken by Stanley Milgram with students that were to take part in some research. So they were invited to come to university and they were asked by an authority figure in a white coat and with a clipboard to sit down, ask a person that was strapped in some kind of electric chair questions and to administer electric shocks when the question was not answered correctly. And the voltage had to go up and up and up every single time a question was answered incorrectly. And that went up to 250 volts. What the participants did not know was that it was just a creation, that chair. It wasn't really an electric chair, and that the person on the chair wasn't really getting shocked. But the participants did not know that, the ones who had asked to ask the questions. So they were asking the questions. Participants were answering questions incorrectly. Voltage goes up. The higher the voltage goes, the person in the chair screams and shouts, "Stop, stop. I've got a heart condition. Can you stop administering the shocks?" Participants, some may have dropped out. The majority of participants, and that's 67% of participants, kept administering the shocks because the person in the white coat with the clipboard said the research is important, you have to continue. So the participants kept asking the questions, and at some point the person stopped answering because the voltage was really high, and the lab coat guy said non-answering of questions requires you to administer a shock as well. So administer the shock. Result of this was, as I said, 67% of people continued till the end administering the elusive shocks, and 100% went all the way to the 250 volts, the deadly voltage. And this showed that in cases of a combination of novelty and authority, people are more likely to conform, to follow instructions, to oblige, to be compliant. It was a shocking experiment that can't be done the same way anymore due to ethical guidelines. It really showed how far people will go to conform and to be compliant when asked by authority figures if the the authority figure is a false authority figure or a real authority figure, that doesn't matter, but they would still do it. Now, how can you keep yourself safe from that kind of control through, quote, outside forces, unquote? Some questions you could ask yourself are, who is saying this? Who is asking this? Who is asking you to do this? Why might they want me to believe that? Does it align with my values and knowledge? What choices do I have? Other things to do are employ critical thinking at all times. If stuff triggers you, if it triggers you to watch the news, if it triggers you to see certain things on social media or on the TV, switch off the news, switch off the TV, take a break from social media. You don't have to be on it for the whole day. Digital detox comes to mind. Also, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts passing through every single day. So a thought is really just a thought. It doesn't need to be taken seriously. It's like a cloud drifting in the sky, to look at it in a mindful way. Always seek alternative versions of a story, of a headline. Always look at it from different perspectives. Don't rely on the one perspective you're presented with, because that headline or story you're presented with is meant to make you believe or think in a certain way. And sometimes it is even necessary to remove yourself from people in your environment that bombard you with their beliefs, with their opinions, that want to make you believe and think the same way they do, even though it doesn't align with your way of thinking or your values. What media and propaganda are also trying to do, and have been doing a lot, even before March 2020, they have tried to divide people into different groups and get them going against each other. That was the case in 1933 to 45, where propaganda has been employed in many ways and in many horrible ways in Germany. And I'm sure it has been done before. Important thing is to know your red flags, recognize the tactics like urgency, overpromising, or guilt-inducing language, set boundaries. One of them is, as I mentioned before, politely disengaging from people or platforms that use manipulative strategies. Seek positive influences, seek out things that motivate you, that bring you joy, that make you feel happy. Listen to good podcasts that give you the opportunity to explore other opinions and viewpoints and angles to stories or narratives. I highly recommend that. There's a few good podcasters out there who invite guests that really broaden your horizons, if you are willing to stop having a fixed mindset and open your mind, and surround yourself with people that are on your wavelength, that don't try to lull you in some kind of false sense of friendship, that don't use you, that really want to be your friends, or that motivate you to become the best version of yourself. Be a critical thinker, employ common sense, and just be aware of what is going on. Sharpen your self-awareness. Sometimes journaling helps to explore. And this brings us again to the end of this part 2 of Who Controls Your Mind as part of the Exploring Brain and Mind podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening. If you like the episode, as always, share and like and follow the podcast and subscribe to it on Apple, on Spotify and all the other podcast outlets. And I hope you tune in again to another episode.